I watched your movie.
Nice. Are you
Um,
okay? Do you need therapy or?
Man, I've got to say, as I messaged you, I was like out of it for about a good hour or so,
Wow.
and it left it was like a. So for who's watching, Use Me is your, what would you call it, a mockumentary? Is that the term?
Um, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it that. It's really a film that it's 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 a fictionalized movie, but it is based on real people. It's based on the life of a real online dominatrix named Ceara Lynch. I started a few years back making a real documentary about her, and then I realized, you know what, I'd actually be better served to script a thriller set in her world, in this world of cam girls and online domination and financial domination. So I wrote a script, but I play myself, she plays herself, and it's very realistic, I suppose. It's sort of like everything's inspired by reality, and it's this blend of reality and fiction, and people don't really know what's real and what isn't, which is kind of the point of the whole thing, because that's like what she does in her line of work. You never know what's the character and what's reality. So I was trying to head fuck the audience a little bit, but only because it was appropriate. And you got head fucked, so that's good, I guess. I mean, it is an unsettling film. It is a thriller that kind of, it's not a traditional thriller. It's like a slow burn thriller. It's more like a psychological thriller. And I am kind of playing with tension and suspense and kind of uneasiness, because the whole world of it is uneasy. And in a way, even, these people like Ceara, who are these online dominatrixes, there is this murky morality to what they do. I mean, she's like one of my best friends and I think she's a genius, but I also have said to her, God, you're kind of on the borderline of being ethical here. You're this close to really exploiting people. So I kind of wanted people to feel uneasy about that, because I feel uneasy about that world. And I think I just wanted the audience to be able to make up their own mind. But look, also in a way, I mean, without getting too philosophical, yes, it's this kind of sexy film, and it's cam girls and all this stuff, on the surface that's very titillating, but I am kind of exploring, in a sense, the theme is like about the American dream, right? And where America is at right now, and maybe even, the disparity. So that is something that maybe should make you feel a bit uncomfortable, or leave you feeling a little negative, for lack of a better word.
So goal achieved, most definitely. And yeah, that is interesting about the American dream, and also the American dream um, being attained in all kinds of different unusual ways, which seems to be, I mean, more so typical for America. At least that's always the sense I get. Like, America's always people in America are always coming up with these interesting ways to make money, or to, gain success or whatever. Like, and how they come to some sort of success or popularity, or like looking at Kim Kardashian recently, just got interested, and I've been looking at her stuff and what happened to her journey. And literally, she's like famous for being famous.
It's amazing how much having a sex tape can do for your career.
Yeah, I saw it. Well, I didn't watch your one from your film, or at least, but I heard that it did.
It did. So, I mean, just to explain for people who don't know, it's not actually like a real sex tape. What we did was, there is a sex scene in the movie with Ceara and I, and we just kind of had this idea of, it would be an innovative way to market this film, because we didn't have a big marketing budget. It's not like a big Hollywood movie. What if we kind of release an extended version on the internet and sell that as a clip, and almost, it's like a fetish clip, but it's promoting the movie. And it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a sexy movie, so it was kind of right on point. I felt really comfortable doing it, and it just blew up. I mean, it became the #1 most downloaded clip out of, I don't know, whatever it is. I mean, 7 million clips or something. It went to #1. It has been more profitable than the movie so far, I will tell you, which tells you a lot about indie film. You have to really love indie film, because you're not doing it for the money. Like the American dream and how people make money in an interesting way. To me, like, she is the embodiment of it. That's why that theme is in the film, because she is a modern entrepreneur and she's brilliant. She, there's no middleman. She goes direct to her clients. And I mean, there's a line in the film where her lawyer is talking about how she sold her poop for like $4,000. And he's like, this is kind of the American dream. And he's not wrong in a sense. It's like, if the market will bear it, you can sell it. And it's about being a hustler and an entrepreneur. And I'm like, well, that is it in a nutshell. And look, I got to tell you, I mean, I am a permanent resident here. I've lived here like 5 years now. I love this country. I would love to be a citizen here one day. It would be really an honor. I mean, I've always wanted that. But it's nothing like Australia. I mean, we grew up together in Australia. There is no safety net. It is terrifying. I mean, even now with, you know, not to get too into the nitty gritty, but with, you know, this pandemic going on in the world, I mean, we're all having problems getting the unemployment payments. We're, you know, like the system is just not a well-oiled machine like it is in Australia. So you're like one bad week away from catastrophe here. And I think in a way that inspires you to just be a hustler and like an entrepreneur like never before. You just have to grind to make it here. It's a brutal country in that regard.
How long did it take you to put the script together?
Whew, look, it took me like a year and a half to write the script. And then honestly, we kind of kept adding to it. And the script was like the blueprint that did hold up. Like it did have the arc. It really was, it kind of nailed that. But then we just realized there were things missing, or we needed to have another beat here. And because it was done in such an economical way, we could just go and shoot that. You know, sometimes it would just be Ceara and I with our own cameras, and that was all we needed. We didn't need a whole crew. Some of my favorite scenes are just the two of us filming each other because they're very intimate and kind of raw. So it's hard to say with the script. It was evolving all through the edit.
So first of all, for your film, you played yourself. You mentioned that it might not have been the best idea. What are the pros and cons of that? And also, do you think that old rule applies where you should remain elusive and hidden who you are if you're an actor, you know, to not show your true self so you can just be seen as the character you play?
Okay, so two great questions. I mean, look, the first one, you've known me many years. Did you think that the Julian in Use Me was much like me that you know, or did you feel it was kind of different and kind of like a character?
Oh, definitely different.
Right.
But not completely different.
Yeah. In a way, Use Me is like my darkest side. I would never do the things that my character does in the film. I mean, there are some very unethical decisions made, like to keep filming and keep documenting when clearly it's not the right idea. But I think what I was playing on there was this notion of, as an artist, we're all in a way always recording or capturing. You know, it's like if you're a writer, you might be having a fight with your wife and she'll say something and you're like, I should remember that to put that in a screenplay one day. It's like that little part of you, you know, and actors do it too. It's like you observe something about human nature, even if someone's upset, and there might just be this little voice that's like, oh God, that's a good way to play a scene in the future. You know, if I'm that upset, I should do that.
It happens all the time, actually.
Yeah, and it doesn't make us a monster. It's like our job is, you know, if you're an actor, if you're a writer, director, that you're trying to replicate reality in a simulation. So how do you make that as real as possible? So in a way, I was just leaning into that little aspect of myself, which is a little bit cold, of sort of recording rather than being in the moment. And I just made a metaphor out of it about this guy can't stop filming. But yeah, I don't actually have that problem at all. I'm very happy to put my camera down.
But using your name, though, do you think?
Yeah, using my name. So I guess that was kind of a hangover from the fact it just started as a documentary. And I guess early on, Ceara and I were just like, well, we'll be Ceara and Julian. But here's the thing. Her real name isn't Ceara. I mean, Ceara's a character. So in a funny way, I'm the only one who actually is himself. So hopefully that kind of answers your first question. I do have some thoughts on the second one, which is that I relate to what you're saying. I kind of always thought I'm going to, you know, be behind a curtain and just put the work out and let that speak for itself. And I do think the world has changed. I kind of think it's only good to put your true self out there. Because like you said, people already typecast you. They typecast you as soon as they see your headshot. Like everyone's got a preconceived idea anyway. So I don't think that putting yourself out there on social media is a bad thing, as long as it's the real, authentic you. I think it can only be good, actually. And it's funny, I mean, in this period where we've had more time on our hands with this pandemic, I've been doing a lot more social media stuff and trying to find my true voice in this medium, because it is a medium. It's nothing like making a film. It's a lot more raw and intimate. And I've found people kind of coming to me. You know, I had a casting agent actually kind of reach out to me because they found me on Instagram. So in a way that contradicts completely the idea that if you hang back and don't put your real self out there, it's better as an actor. I found putting myself out there more actually has created some opportunities. And I think in a way, actually doing your own content or even being able to monetize it and have income from it is what keeps you in the game. You know, I mean, look, I'm coming at it like from, I went to film school, I went to AFTRS, just even from a directing perspective, so many people have dropped out of the industry. And I think it's kind of like you until you get that critical mass and are really making the big bucks, you've got to have something else keeping you afloat. Otherwise you will just drop out because it's too hard. So
what is it that do you think that you have and that drives you, that gets all this done, basically?
Rampant anxiety. I honestly think that. Look, I'm not sure where it comes from. I mean, my parents believed in me and supported me a lot, but it just it happened kind of early. It was like sort of, I want to say it was like 8 or 9 years old. I just remember, I think I was reading short stories by Roald Dahl. I think it was Tales of the Unexpected. And I just remember thinking, oh, I could write too. And that was really it. It was that simple. I could do this too. I could tell stories too. And I just believed it. I really believed it from a young age. And I just started, and I just kind of had this absolute confidence. I don't know where it came from, but there is just this fire that burns in me. It's just, it is who I am. And, you know, fire burns. Like it hurts. It hurts being this way. You know, it keeps me up all night. And that's the thing people don't see, is just the pressure that I put on myself and driving myself along to achieve these.
Because of what? Because of pressure, because of perfectionism, or to just get as much done as you can? What's the pressure from?
Yeah, I don't know if it's perfectionism, but it is, I guess, just to see how far I can go on this journey and how deep I can go. I think it really just comes down to answer the question, how good can I be? How good can I be at this? But if you just focus on yourself, it actually doesn't really give you enough motivation. It's you get a lot more focusing on others. It's like, how much joy can I give the audience? Or if it's something like Use Me, how uncomfortable or tense can I make them feel? Like whatever the goal is, I find you run out of steam when it's all narcissistic and on yourself. You really just have to think about who you're making it for. And that is how I keep refilling the tank, really, because I just think about the audience. And now it's like, how can I give the most value? And that would be kind of my advice to anyone, because if you're doing it to be a star or to make money or anything like that, like you will run out of steam. We both know this. It is like the hardest industry. But if you're focused on what you're giving, that really keeps you going. And that's now, at this point in my career, what pulls me along. Be process focused, not outcome focused. Because that will keep you grounded when you're on a high, and it will give you hope when you're at a low. You know, if you don't get the part, but maybe you did the best audition you could, you should be proud of that and you should celebrate that. You're getting better at your craft, and one day that's going to pay off. Maybe, you know, I had a thing recently, I applied for funding. I've applied for funding for a couple things and didn't get it. And it's disappointing, you know. I could take that as a failure. Or I could say, you know what, even just applying for that forced me to do all this work that made me better at my craft. So really, it's a win. And I'll probably get the next one. Like, you do have to find some kind of optimism that's authentic. And I think the optimism comes from focusing on the prospect. And here's the beauty of it. Like, you never know what's going to take off. I have had things that I've worked so hard on for years that don't do as well as I would have imagined. And then other times, things just fall into my lap. and they're like a massive success. And I'm like, that didn't take any effort. This was like handed to me by the universe. But I kind of put it down to I just am consistent and keep going. And you never know what the thing is that's going to succeed. But if you just keep going and put the effort out, something will. So don't be too attached to what that thing is. Like your first film or this like, oh yeah, I'm going to make a movie. Like that might not be the thing that actually succeeds, but something else will come along out of it, you know?
Yeah, totally agree. A branch off to what you just said, about that, the universe just delivering. I've been thinking a lot about that actually, because I know when I'm in the flow of that and when I'm not. And I'm trying to discover what it is that can keep me in the flow for longer. Do you have a formula?
No, and I'd be bullshitting you if I did. I'd be bullshitting if I was like, you've got to get up at the same time every day and work in the same hours, because I'm quite irregular. I have insomnia. Honestly, just consistency. Consistency gets you through feeling up or down. I have days where I feel like $1,000,000. I have days where I'm borderline depressed, but habit keeps you going. Just do a little bit each day. Yeah, I think anything that makes you feel strong within yourself, or that you have worth, that does magnetize people towards you. So any self-care practices you can do, or running your own YouTube channel, creating your own content, something where you feel like, hey, I'm in control of this, I'm feeling good about this, I have power. To me, that draws people in. And so to your point, I mean, I believe in manifestation, and I have the word magnet on my vision board of sorts, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to force myself onto people. That's kind of the old me. I used to be kind of like that, and now I'm a little bit more like sit back, like, look, if you want this, come and get it. And that's the shift, and that's a powerful shift. So I would encourage people to think about that a little bit. Think about being a magnet rather than trying to push your stuff out. Instead, pull people in.
Yeah, that's great. I think
Cool.
I think that's it. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, push versus pull. It's like a mindset,
Yeah.
and there's power in pulling people in, I think.
Yeah. How that looks on the outside is that you just look confident and relaxed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Any advice for people people, I guess, artists already living in the US or Australians wanting to go to live in the US? I guess anyone who wants to go and live in the US as an artist, any sort of quick tips that you can share?
Don't do it unless it's a burning desire and I have to go over there. You're better off otherwise just to send self tapes from Australia. And look, here's the thing, or Serbia, or wherever you are. We're in this situation where LA might not even be a thing anymore. I don't think I would go in for an in-person audition for the rest of this year. I just don't think it's going to happen. I live in Portland, Oregon right now. Sometimes I fly down to LA if I get a call back or something, or like a really good audition. But I do self tapes. If I was living in West Hollywood, I'd probably be doing 95% self tapes. Like the world has changed. So I would just maybe say save your $20,000 and keep doing self tapes. And if you're good enough, the whole machine will kick in and maybe they'll get you an O1 visa. I think the days of I'm going to move to LA and try and be a star are, I just don't know if that's the smart move anymore. You know, in a world of self tapes, I can't honestly encourage people to do that unless they feel such a strong calling. And in which case, if you feel that, go for it.
All right, quick tennis round, Jules.
Nice.
What's your favorite color?
Navy blue.
Are you wearing navy blue right now?
I am wearing navy blue right now.
Oh my God.
And like navy blue with red, to me, wow, that's a great combo.
Which is your favorite muscle to work on, to pump up?
Ooh. I'm just going to say chest. I think that's fun. And it's something I need to work on. That's something that for me is a little bit stubborn. I have to give that a bit of attention for it to grow. Doesn't come easy. Other muscles come easy to me. That one's a little bit hard. So I like the challenge of that one.
Do you have a favorite director?
Yeah, God. I mean, I love Paul Thomas Anderson a lot. My work is nothing like his. I could never make movies like him, but I do think he is He is brilliant, you know. I really think he's brilliant. That's a bit of a cliched one. I mean, a lot of people would say that. This is not. I don't even really want to say this, but it's the first film that really made me want to be a director was Deconstructing Harry. I saw that when I was 11, and the director, who I shouldn't even say his name because he's kind of been canceled now, but that movie changed my life, and his work totally changed my life. So I'd have to mention him as well. But he'll go nameless.
If you, in the future, what is there? Would you like to branch off into a different style of filmmaking or genre?
Great question. I think we'll just see how it evolves. I do know that I think the ability I have is in that realism kind of space and like eliciting authenticity or making fictional stuff feel really authentic. I think real life stories is something I do kind of specialize in. I could see myself making like a much more polished, constructed, big budget movie about someone's real life, you know, a biopic. I could see that in the future. So as for branching off, we'll see what the journey brings. I don't know.
Will you continue to put yourself in your movies like Mel Gibson or, you know, or some other directors like that? Russell Crowe now too.
I mean, it's almost my trademark now, and I didn't set out to do it. The first time I had to be dragged into it, my first documentary, I didn't want to. I did not want to do the voiceover or anything. I tried to stay out of it. And my producer said, you have to do it. It's going to be better. And then I just realized it's more authentic. You know, I do like doing that with the documentaries because I think it's like, I don't know. To me, it's more truthful. I like documentary makers that do that because the director is part of the story. You're shaping it inherently. It is a subjective medium. I don't care what anyone says. So it's almost more honest to put yourself in it and say, hey, I'm almost contaminating this process. But yeah, with that,
that's the actor in you contaminating the process.
That's what it is. But as for acting, I prefer working with another director. That's for sure. Directing yourself is one of the hardest things I've ever done. Really hard. Yeah, but I'd probably do it again.
Are you still no worries guy?
No worries. Oh, okay. Was that from one of my early speeches?
Yeah.
About how when you hear the word no, you think no worries?
Yep.
I try to be. Yeah, I think so. I think I am because I still deal with constant rejection, but all people see is the success, you know? Like for every one success I have, there's 50 rejections or failures that people don't know about. So I am still that guy, actually, all those years later. I do believe what I said in that speech. Yeah. You have to make friends with failure. If you don't, you won't succeed in this industry.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So, project or moment that you're most proud of to date?
It's like the next one. It's always my point of view, you know, like it'll be the next thing I do. I mean, I'm proud I made a feature film. That was a hard thing to do. That was like climbing Mount Everest. I am proud. Even if nobody ever saw it, if it literally never got distribution, I would still feel proud because I know I gave it everything. Like that's the one project I feel like I had nothing more to give. It was 100%. And I'm sure in the future I'll be able to make something much better. I would hope so. I want to be like embarrassed by the film when I watch it when I'm 40. Like, oh, if I made it now, it'd be so much better. But all I'm ever proud of is the effort because that's all you can control. You're just going to naturally get better the more you practice your craft. Like I will just be so much better at 40. And then at 50, theoretically, I should be way better again. But I'm proud of any time I really gave my all. So regardless of whether the project was successful or not, I look at that film, I look at my first documentary, Darling, the Peter Durkee story, I gave that 100%. I am proud of that.
That's right. That's so true. That is so well put. You're proud of the effort because that's really what it is about. Like,
yeah,
I feel so good when I know it's like I've done my best, and also just that process of it, of doing your best and working on it and everything. That's actually the reward, really. I really like that.
It's a cliche, but that is the reward. Like I'll just share one more thing, right? So I came down to Australia recently, and I had like a red carpet event for my movie. It was at George Street Cinema. This is the cinema I went to growing up, right? It's on the biggest screen there. It's a packed house. My movie got distribution. You would think this would be the highlight of my life. No, I was having a terrible day. I won't go into it, but I was, in personal strife about some stuff. I had to deal with some personal issues. I was jet lagged. I was really tired. Like that wasn't the moment that I thought it would be. And that was theoretically me at the top of the mountain. And that was probably what I fantasized about while I was making the film. Like, I'm just going to get to that point. One day I'll have a finished film. It'll have this red carpet premiere. Then I'll be happy. I wasn't happy when I got there. I was happy making the film. The happiest I was, and this is going to sound funny, but it was after shooting the sex scene with Ceara, okay? Which, when you see the movie, you realize it's not just a sex scene. It actually, the scene I mean, right? That whole scene sets up the whole movie and sets up my character. And it was so hard to do that scene, to get the balance right of it's the sexy scene, and then it takes a massive tone shift and it becomes really dark and intimate and personal, and we're really getting into the character stuff of the film. And I just knew that we'd nailed it. And I was just on a high because I felt like, you know what, this scene's actually going to work. I think we pulled it off. And
I have to say that was I really liked that scene. That was probably one of my favorite scenes.
I'm so glad to hear that. But it was hard to execute because it did take it goes from just a sexy scene to, it kind of takes a big tone shift. And anything that's a big tone shift is really hard to pull off as a director and to keep the audience going. So yeah, I think of that where I knew it was going to work. And I think the happiness I felt that day, knowing that this important scene would work, was the happiest I was in the whole process. So there you go. Maybe that's encouraging to people.
Do you see that once you filmed it, or only just in the editing room?
I didn't even look at the rushes. I kind of felt it. I felt it in the performances. I felt like we got there and I was just satisfied. I felt we'd done something challenging and pulled it off.
Is there anything philosophical that you're mulling over at the moment?
Ooh. I am philosophically mulling over the entire business model of making content. That's just where my head's at this week. And when people are trying to make content, you do need to monetize it. And kind of like, is it YouTube? Do you do it through YouTube? Do you do it through a subscription site? Right now, I'm leaning more towards that subscription site model, while also putting out content on stuff like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that, where people are. But yeah, I think philosophically, I'm kind of realizing I don't need 1 million people that then trickles a little bit of money back. It's like, I might need like 20 or 30 people who are really invested, and that might actually pay my rent. So that's more financial than philosophical, but it all kind of, it's philosophical in a sense of how do you reach an audience, where do you put your energy, and what's really worthwhile. And I think what I'm realizing is I'm not obsessed with numbers. Not everything has to be, it's going to reach 1 million people. It's like, I could reach a really small number of people and hit them really well and actually be super satisfied with that. Yes.
What's your ikigai? For what do you wake up in the morning?
Right now, it's looking after my partner is very much on my mind, and helping her be the best she can be. That actually does get me out of bed. That's more motivating to me than my own shit, because a lot of stuff about being successful or acting or filmmaking, there is just inherently, it's very you focused. And like I said, I think once you start thinking about serving other people, or hey, if I'm successful, that's going to help me look after my partner and maybe start a family one day, that motivates me a lot more. So I think that's what is really firing me up even more these days. Yeah.